My butthole's bleeding. My butthole's bleeding. That's all I heard as I sat inside the Jefferson Parish prison jail cell. I was on the 3rd floor, and I had just got to jail and only been there for like a week. And it was around 2 in the morning, and all of a sudden, you just hear this dude screaming, my butthole's bleeding, my butthole's bleeding, my butthole's bleeding. And by this time, there's a commotion. Everybody's sleeping. They getting up. People in their cells, and they're like, man, the dude booty bleeding, man, the dude booty bleeding. And that's what the dude who's in the cell with him is starting to say. He said, the dude booty bleeding. And then everybody like, man, what's going on, man, what you doing, that boy in that cell? And I'm like, oh, man, he must be getting that little dude. He must have, SA'd him, and I'm listening to this, and I'm in my cell. I'm in a little one-man cell. I lucked out, on the pod. They got like 3 or 4 one-man cells, and all the rest of the cells are 2-man cells, and I actually lucked out and got a one-man cell. You just luck out. They just put them in, and so for the 3 months that I was in prison, I had the one-man cell, and I'm in the one-man cell. It's around 2 in the morning. Dude screaming, his butthole's bleeding, and the other dude saying, man, he got blood coming from a booty. He got blood coming from a booty. So one of the other dudes, they start telling him, they said, say, bro, what you did to little white boy, bro? What you did to little white boy? And he said, man, I ain't did him nothing, he ain't won. I ain't did him nothing, he ain't won. And there's so much commotion. At this point, the actual officer cuts the lights on in the dorm, and all the lights come on. So now everybody's getting up, and the officers come in. They go into a cell, one officer comes in first, and the officer goes into him, and I didn't see what they said because, you can't see in cells. And in other words, it was on the same line that I was on, so I could not see inside the cell. But some of the other dudes, because the T is shaped like an L, they could look across from the L-shaped T and look into the cell, and they see him. And the little dude he's got his hands wrapped through the cell bars, and he's holding the cell bars, and he's holding himself up, and they could see the blood coming because it's kind of coming out the cell, and the little dude's whimpering and everything, and the other dude said, I ain't done the white boy nothing, I ain't done him nothing. And so the other dudes, they said, man, you done that little dude something, bro, you done that little dude something. They said, you been trying to get that boy. And I'm like, man, how in the world did I get out of prison and come back to jail and get myself back in this? Because I was an idiot. This was the second time I had got arrested. I was on parole, and I knew at this point I wasn't getting out, and my charges were enough that I knew I was about to get time. I was just hoping I wasn't going to catch no life sentence, which obviously I didn't. But this is the story of the little dude who got his butthole, busted open. And so the guy, he's inside the cell. So the officers come in. They get the little dude. I don't even know the little dude's name. He wasn't even there long. I never seen him again after that, ever again. And they come get him out of there. Come to find out, the officers, they start doing an investigation. They removed the little dude. They got him to the hospital and everything. And they asked the guy who was in the cell with him. They said, man, look, we know what you did. You taught her, you physically hurt that boy, and, we're going to charge you with it, so they talking to him and everything. And he said, man, he said, bro, I just bust his cherry. I said, what? The dude said he bust his cherry, and he literally told the cops, he said, I bust his cherry. I ain't knew. He said, I ain't knew an anus had a cherry. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how in the world do I wind up around grown men who think that a man's butt can be busted like a woman's vagina, and they believe this stuff? And some of the other dudes, as the time went by in the cell, they were like, yeah, man, if you don't know, man, you could bust a booty like you could bust a vagina. And I'm like, man, that's crazy, right? That's weird. I've never heard that before. And at this time, I'm like 21, 22 years old, but I had enough knowledge to know that wasn't the case, that he probably just penetrated the dude so bad that he literally ripped his anus. And this is going on in prison, and they saying he busted the dude's cherry. And I'm stuck in prison having to deal with this. This is jail. This is the parish jail. And the parish jail can be wild, and they got bandits in there. Some of them dudes, they get out. Come to find out, the dude who was in the cell with him, he had already been to prison, and they call him boys. he had been, up the road to Angola and everything in the 70s, done time up there. This is in the 90s, and he got out for a little while, but he couldn't function out in society, so he winds up back in jail. And come to find out, he was out here in the world, in the free world, once he gets out from doing all the time in Angola. And now he is actually, he had another SA charge where he did something to a woman. And supposedly he didn't like having certain relationships unless it was their backside, and that's what he had got arrested for. A lady had he had hard R-word a woman, but said he did it to her rectum, and that's what he was actually in the jail for. And just some sick stuff, man. And so he got the little dude that he was in the cell with, and I don't know whatever happened to the little dude, man. But if you ever wind up in a cell with a booty bandit, you just got to get busy, man. Handle your business, fight them. Don't go in the cell, man. Do something. You got to fight. I tell it to people all the time. But you don't want the one to be that was your butt that was bleeding. And this is hard for me to talk about these stories, but this is what goes on in prison. Do you know, I have seen so many little dudes get their manhood taken, and they didn't do nothing about it. And I don't know how they function today in society, but I've seen, man, in all my years in prison, I've seen dozens of dudes get their manhood taken, because they were too scared to fight. And all you got to do is fight, or get down and get busy, or do something. But you just can't let people take. I've seen some dudes, they get talked out of it. So I'm assuming maybe in the cell, that old convict, he talked the little dude into giving it up, and he wasn't fighting and struggling, but he talked him out of it. But the little dude didn't know that when he was going to get what he got, that it was going to cause him to hemorrhage and bleed, And so, that's the story, man. And at this point I realized, I put myself back in jail, and now I got to deal with this madness. If you like anything crime and prison related, then you're in the right place. Welcome to the Pen and the Shank. Why don't you take a moment to give me a like and subscribe? And I got other videos where I talk about some of this harsh reality of prison and some of the things that happen in prison. So, like I said, give me a like and subscribe, and go check out my videos. Let's get it.